Alright, this is the big one. I'm going to show how to install a CPS1 and Kabuki InfiniKey inside a CPS 1.5 game. This is Tenchi Wakuro 2, aka Warriors of Fate. And because I don't want to bore you removing all the screws and all that nonsense and just focus on the electronics, I've actually loosened or removed most of that stuff. But I did want to give some pointers if you've never opened one of these up. So you'll see on these corners there's some Phillips screws that are covered up by these little caps. And I've received these various ways. I received them where somebody had glued them in. I received them where there was what appeared to be some sort of like rubberized double-sided tape in there. I don't know what is factory, but anyways, I recommend some sort of little small jeweler's type screwdriver to get in under there and kind of get in under the edge and pry it up, and then that seemed to work pretty good for me. Like I said, these are already loose, so it's not going to be this easy for you, but anyways, these little caps pop out, and then there's a Phillips screw, something like that, down in there. And I'm just going to dump these out like that. That's the easy way. And then on the front, there are up to 7 of these torque screws, like this guy right here. And it's kind of a star shape with a hole in the middle. And this is a T10 is the size. Not sure if you can see that very well. T10. And so, like I said, up to 7 of these. The games that I get, I've received with, as few as 0 screws and up to 5, but I don't think I've ever received one with 7. But they go in the locations of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's a center one, 7. And there's a washer under those, so when you take them out, try not to lose the washer. And then after you've gotten all that out, there are some internal clips that you can't see, plastic clips that hold this on. And so I'm just going to use opposing pressure to push down with my finger and lift up with my thumb on both sides. And that actually came out really easy. But sometimes they're in there pretty good, and you got to press on it, and it feels like it's going to break. But as long as you've removed all the screws, those little clips should just pop off. I'm still holding on to this because there's a fan connector, and so I'm going to slightly push this way and be pulling up at the same time, and that just pops right off. See, it's got a little lip there that catches. That's why I was pushing it this way. So we can set this aside. These are the little internal clips that catch that you can't see until you've popped it off. These are extremely fragile, but if they do break, you've still got screws to hold things together. But obviously you'd rather avoid breaking things. So here's the insides, and once these screws are removed, this whole panel comes off, and it's connected to 2 connectors. There's this one up here, and then there's one that looks like a JAMA connector down here. And depending on the history of the board, it may or may not be a nightmare to get this off. This one I've popped off before, so it's probably not too bad. So I'm just lifting up like this, and I'm going to kind of do that back and forth. Lift this side, lift this side, lift this side, until eventually this whole thing will unplug. And there's those 2 connectors. And so that kind of frees up the separate boards from that front panel. And this whole thing kind of needs to all come apart. The A board is obviously on the bottom if you've never seen the stack up of these on a regular CPS1, it goes A, B, which is the ROM board, and then C, which is the graphics processor board. But on the CPS 1.5, Capcom moved a bunch of the audio stuff, well, I guess all of the audio stuff, to this, what some people will call a D board. It has a new audio amp, and it replaced the Z80 with a Kabuki chip. So we're going to have to access the D board and the C board, which means basically everything comes apart. So I'm going to gently and firmly pry up on this guy. That came off pretty easy, actually. That's our C board. We have to remove the B board, or the ROM board, in order to get to the Kabuki below it. So we're going to set this B board aside for the time being. And if you're familiar with CPS2, you'll probably recognize that guy. That's your old CPS2 battery there. And I've received many different cases, some of which the A board is screwed down, sometimes it's not. This one is screwed down, but I don't have to remove that because all we need to do is pop this D board off. Real quick, I just pulled this out of the case. This was flopping around. So when you remove this faceplate, or when you pull the screws off of this faceplate, these are what go behind it to secure the screw. And once the screw's missing, these aren't in there all that well, and these can actually slip out of the plastic case. And you need to be sure you keep track of all those because you don't want those flopping around inside and short-circuiting anything. A little trick I've used before to secure them is just wrap a bit of tape around one side, so when I slip them back in the plastic case, they stick. Alright, onward. So I'm going to gently pull up on this D board and get this guy free. Alright, I'm going to set the A board aside. Real quick, this is that audio section that's all moved off of the A board and onto this board. So here's our Kabuki chip. Here's our battery. We need to remove the battery. And I guess since it's such a simple operation, I'm not going to zoom up on that. I'm going to, well, maybe I will. Let me grab my camera stand here. Sorry about the commotion. Because I think I need to bring the camera down for this, for the C board anyways. So might as well come on down for this. So this solder looks, it looks okay, but I'll go ahead and add a little bit just to freshen it up. And I'm going to come under here and just ever so gently pull down on the battery and just go back and forth until that guy comes out. Alright, that was super simple. Just a little bit of leftover there. Okay. And there's that guy. You can throw that away. And front battery area looks good. So here is our Kabuki. Let me see if I can get a little bit taller view. Yeah, that works. So there's our Kabuki chip, and I need to pop this guy out. As with all these mods, if you receive this with some other mod, step one is to revert all those mods And that may or may not be a nightmare, so I'm not even going to cover that because that's really it could be quite a wreck depending on what you're undoing. So I'll leave that up to you. I'm just showing you how to add my stuff in. So this is let's see here, TK2X, because we've got a TK2 on our Q sound program there. So 10100, and we'll do 10100. Okay, just double check. 10100, 10100. Measure twice, cut once, right? So I'm going to press this guy in. Then I'm going to line up the back pins first. I'm not going to press them all the way in, but I just want to get them lined up. And then on the front side, I'm going to push this way slightly and get all those pins lined up on the front side till it drops in. And then I'm going to push everything in. Alright, so that board should be done. And now we are on to the C board. And if you watch the CPS1 video, this is the same exact operation. We're just gonna remove this guy, and as I did in the other video, the leads on these are bent in, and so as I'm heating that up, I'm going to pry up lightly with these tweezers, and I'll zoom up a little bit there for you. So get the tweezers under that lead, and bring my iron in here. That pried up, and then get under this lead, heat it up, pry up, okay, and then get under here and grab this with my fingers, and I'm not pulling very hard, but just pulling a little bit, and I'm going to heat this up, and I can feel that slip right down, and there's our battery once again. Alright, so that looks clean. I'm not even going to bother with that. Okay, so that board's done. And now we can set the codes here. So we already verified this is a TK2. However, TK2A is kind of a zinger, and it has its own code. But with this TK2X, which can be verified by, you can see right here, TK2J. I did not modify these came that way. I'm assuming that's a factory change, but anyways, TK2J. So we're going to use this TK2X code, which so smartly happens to be the same code as the one we put into the Kabuki. So 10100. So 10100. Alright. Okay. Now I'm going to mate these. And so you may be wondering why I bothered to have two different flavors of this, because there's the larger one that I use for regular CPS1, and then there's this one. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. So there are no shrouds on these headers, which means there's no way to ensure that somebody doesn't plug this in backwards. However, the reason I have no shrouds on that is because of space constraints within that plastic housing. It has to be both low profile and there's kind of an offset which shifts everything inward. And I scrutinized over that for hours and weeks, and I was never able to come up with a solution to where I could have both the shrouded connectors and squeeze into the space of that plastic housing. So anyways, you just have to be really careful. There's at least a silk screen here though, which shows us where the keys are. We can see here, here's our key, here's our key, so we know that this is the correct orientation. But you still need to pay close attention to the alignment of these pins. See right there? I'm one off. That would have been bad. So we're going to try and get up in here. That's off that way. It's kind of hard when you're going through the camera. Alright, I get off again. Alright, I need to do this off camera. Look to the side. Alright, there we go. Alright, so we're aligned this way. We're aligned this way. All these headers. And I'm going to firmly press these together. And these. And you can see quite clearly whether it's seated or not because it goes all the way down. And you can see those are nice and parallel. So now, these headers have a key on them. The lighting's not that great. So there's a key there. And we can use that to match these gaps on our B board. So keys on this side. We're going to get those in there. I'm actually going to rotate this around here. And so I've already got the keys aligned. So I know that it's safe to press down. But you really want to make sure those keys are aligned before you press down because you don't want to be mashing down and bending pins and all kinds of craziness. So, pressing down on, sorry about the camera work here. There we go. I was waiting for it to drop. So these can have quite a bit of resistance, but you still want to be careful that you're not pressing down when things are misaligned, because then you're just really bending pins and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So that looks nice and parallel to me. It looks well seated. And our B board is done. So now we should be able to do our final stack up. I'm going to move my camera again. Get way up here. Alright. Sorry about the wonky camera work, but that's what we got. So here's our A board. And we need to put on our D board. And so thankfully we have shrouded headers all around on these, so we don't have to be too worried about alignment. So that's down. And now we need to put on our B and C board. And I'm not having to press too hard on these. I'm just using both thumbs on each of the 4 main connectors. And now we need to put our front plate on. And I guess it's probably best to view it from the top so we can ensure that those are all lined up. Let me move this around here. So I'm gonna start pressing on these, get it started. Once I've got it started, I'm gonna move down to this way, because pushing down is way easier than the other way. And these pins are nasty, so be careful pushing down on those. I'm trying not to actually get my finger on them because they are pretty sharp and hurtful. Alright, so that is our complete assembly, and provided we didn't mess anything up, it should fire right up. Get our JAMA connector here, get our camera, get our power going. Alright, there it is. So this is Tenchi Wakuro 2, and it's some good fun. There you can hear the sound working, and yeah, good times. So as you can see, most of the installation is incredibly simple, and the important part is to take your time and ensure alignment. Those are the big things. And that's it for CPS 1.5.